Good morning, everyone. I feel like they're going to regret giving me a microphone. All right. So, good morning. Welcome to the 23rd Annual Social Work Conference hosted by the Social Work Department here at University of Southern Indiana. Give us a round of applause. All right. Also, NASW is co-sponsoring this with us as well. Excuse me. It's great to see everyone this year. Good morning. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Quentin Maynard. I am a conference co-chair along with Dr. Summer Wilderman, right over there, my fearless co-leader. I'd also like to introduce the rest of our team, Dr. Young-Hee Han and Professor Brandy Watson. Let's give them a huge thanks for all their work for making today possible. We do have a few other notable MVPs. Rita Brunner, she was the one registering everyone. Shari Bayard and Dr. Jay Dickerson. Beryl Cohen, again, and her team with NASW Indiana. We're happy you can join us this year. The theme of the conference is Empowering Social Workers, Inspiring Action, Leading Change. Throughout the day, we'll have numerous opportunities to learn from each other on a variety of topics of interest to our profession. Whether you're a seasoned professional, a student, or somewhere in between, this is a space to connect, collaborate, and leave re-energized to lead change in our community. Before we begin with the welcome, I'd like to cover a bit of housekeeping. We have several bathrooms in the building. They're around the corners, towards the front and also towards the breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are when you came in and registered, if you would turn to the left instead of the right to come here, they're down there. Outside the breakout rooms, we also have the exhibitor hall, so go check them out, our great partners here in the community. In the event we have severe weather, I'm not going to jinx it this year, please go downstairs to the basement. Don't go out the door right outside this room. If you do that, you will be face-to-face with the severe weather. We do not want that. If there is an emergency, please follow the directions from the various announcements and the powers that be. As you can see in the back, we have a little photo booth that Carol put together for us. Please go take pictures. We have a Kalulu set up. There's a QR code back there, and on these slides, you can, if you want to, you can share your pictures with us so we can blast it out on social media. Also, for the conference, we're open for ideas for future themes. So if you have any ideas, please email someone on the conference committee or our conference email address, sw.conference@usi.edu. Final housekeeping, you have some QR codes on your table. Those will take you to the conference agenda or to our licensing event that we're putting on here for our students and our community partners on April 19th. Okay, got that taken care of. I'd like to invite a few people to welcome you to the university and our social work conference. First, please welcome Dr. Shelley Blunt. Dr. Blunt is the provost of the University of Southern Indiana.
Thank you, Quentin. I'm a little froggy today, so please bear with me. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the University of Southern Indiana. We're thrilled to see you here today, to have so many social workers, mental health counselors, and students and faculty gather together to talk about your profession and engage with one another. You know, you've taken time out of your busy schedules to learn from one another, to share best practices and build connections or reconnect with one another. I always find going to conferences as a way to rejuvenate yourself and to really kind of spark new ideas and creativity. So thank you for being here today. This is an exciting year for the social work department. If you've seen on the screen, on your tables and in the back, you see 50, 40, 30. What does that mean? Well, that means we're celebrating some anniversaries today. So we are celebrating the 50, 40, 30 anniversary for social work. Social work started as a concentration within the sociology department 50 years ago this academic year. It transitioned to a bachelor's degree program 40 years ago, and then added the master's program 30 years ago. So that's quite an accomplishment. And this year we actually added an online version of our Masters of Social Work program. You know, I was talking to Jay earlier today, like, when's the doctoral program coming? He said, when I told him it was, but that's not quite true. How many of you are alumni from USI? If you're an alum, stand up for a minute. Isn't that amazing? Welcome back to your alma mater. It's awesome to see you here today. Social work is one of our strongest programs in the College of Liberal Arts, both at the graduate and undergraduate program. And I believe that is a testimony to the quality of the education our students receive by our top-notch faculty here at USI. And I'm sure you're going to hear more about the history of the program throughout the day. So thank you to all the faculty, you know, for providing this opportunity for so many individuals in the community. I also want to take the opportunity to thank all of you. You know, in this room, I see champions who are working with vulnerable people and communities facing everyday challenges and advocating for social and economic justice for them. And as we know, these challenges are definitely not going away. You counsel them, you help them improve their lives, you work with people of all ages, all abilities, from all demographic categories, individuals with addiction problems, individuals with mental health concerns, victims of violence or trauma, and I could go on and on and on. And I'm a chemist, so I don't know how you do that work every day. Right? The breadth of your dedication epitomizes the essence of the conference theme: empowering social workers, inspiring action, and leading change. The work you do is hard work every day, and it takes special individuals like you with a calling to do this work, and that is not unrecognized by me or our colleagues around the communities. Again, thank you for the profound difference you make in our communities and continue to be a catalyst for positive change. I hope you have an amazing conference experience, and again, thank you for being here, and welcome.
All right, thank you, Dr. Blunt. Now we're going to hear from Kristlyn Shevland. Dr. Shevland is the Assistant Dean of the College of Liberal Arts, which houses our awesome social work department.
Thank you for the opportunity to say good morning to all of you. And it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this conference at the University of Southern Indiana. It is an honor to celebrate our dynamic and engaged social work program in this year of tremendous anniversaries, and to be surrounded by such a dedicated group of professionals, students, and advocates who are committed to making a difference in the lives of individuals, families, and communities. Social work is more than a profession. It is a calling, a mission, and a commitment to social justice, equity, and compassion. Today, we're going to gather not only to expand our knowledge and our skills, but also to reaffirm the vital role social workers play in strengthening our communities. Every day, at the macro, meso, or micro level, dedicated social workers serve as advocates, educators, and caregivers, ensuring that the most vulnerable among us receive the support and resources that we need. Whether working in child welfare, healthcare, mental health services, or community outreach, social workers stand on the front lines, addressing pressing social issues and fostering resilience in those they serve. The impact of social work extends far beyond individual cases. It shapes policies, challenges injustices, and builds pathways towards a more inclusive and compassionate society. As we navigate an ever-changing world with new challenges, the role of social workers has never been more critical. From addressing housing instability and mental health crises to promoting social and economic justice, this profession remains at the heart of meaningful social change, and the faculty, staff, and alumni from USI's program are deeply embedded within their communities, leading this change. On a personal note, I have had the wonderful experience of working with so many social workers here in Evansville, both on the personal and professional level. And on an even deeper personal note, many, many years ago in rural Minnesota, social workers quite literally saved my mother and my life, allowing my mother to leave a very violent situation, so that I'm here today to celebrate with you. Throughout this conference, you're going to hear from experts, engage in thought-provoking discussions, and share experiences that will inspire and empower us. And I encourage you to take this opportunity to relish in this anniversary, to soak up as much goodness as you can from the energy in this room, to learn, collaborate, and find renewed energy for the very hard road in the work ahead. I want to thank you personally and professionally for your unwavering dedication to this quintessentially essential field. Let's make today a meaningful and transformative experience for us all. Thank you very, very much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Shevlin. Last but not least, we have our department's fearless leader, Dr. Jay Dickerson, Chair of the Social Work Department.
Good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. All right, that's more like it. Welcome to USI and welcome to the 23rd Annual Social Work Conference at USI. Our theme this year is Empowering Social Work, Inspiring Action, and Leading Change. I can't think of a better theme for this group of people or this profession, especially in the climate that we're in currently. What I would like to do is recognize the people who put the conference together and who were instrumental in putting together the mixer that we had last night, our pregame, if you will, for today. And that's the Social Work Conference Committee. If I could have them stand, I hope they're all in the room. The co-chairs, Dr. Summer Wilderman and Quentin Maynard. Brandy Watson. And Dr. Chung-hee Han. Without this group of individuals, today would not be happening. So thank you all. I appreciate all the work and blood and sweat and tears that you put into making today the event that it is. I'd also like to recognize someone who is really my right hand. And without her help, I would be wandering around probably a little aimlessly. I like to joke that she herds my cats extremely well. Hopefully she is in here, and that is Carol Blair. Carol, could you please stand? Carol put together all of the centerpieces. It was her design. She created these, the photo booth. She, along with, I like to call her our paparazzi, Shari Baird from the College of Liberal Arts. She's our marketing and media person, and she's been instrumental in helping create the graphics and the history room poster. So thank you, Shari. As Dr. Blunt mentioned, today is very auspicious for us. We are celebrating multiple milestones, 50 years of social work on our campus, 40 years of a Bachelor of Social Work program, 30 years of the Master of Social Work, and I like to say +1. I don't know what it is with social work and years ending in 4, but this marks our first year for the online MSW, so we have one more program to add to the list. I'd also like to point out that we partner with National Association of Social Workers, Indiana. They are wonderful collaborators. Beryl in the back, she's doing an incredible job. And this is also 75 years for NASW to be in our state. So thank you, Beryl, for all the work you're doing. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize you. If I could, would all of our current social work faculty please stand? And that includes our lecturers. All right. Thank you for everything you do for the programs and our students and the community. I'd also like to take a moment. I know Shelley, Dr. Blunt, recognized our alumni, but could I also recognize our current social work students? Would you please stand? These individuals are our future. And last, but certainly not least, these individuals are why our programs exist and why we're here. Would our community partners please stand? Agent, I know you're out there. Okay, they're shy today, so. I know that we have one in attendance, and I would really like to take a moment to thank her for the years that she has put in and the leadership that she has personally given me, and I know that she has mentored very, very many other social work students. But we have Christy Baker here joining us today, one of our Arameta faculty. Well, I'm not going to take any more time. It's wonderful to see all of your faces today. It always, the inspiration that you give me is incredible. And when I look across the sea of faces, it makes me all the more inspired. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being part of our programs, part of our community, and making the difference that you're making in your clients' and participants' lives. Let's have a great conference. Welcome.
One last announcement as I pull up the slides, but right next door in the room 226-227, we have our history room. It walks you through the ages of USI social work, so please go visit there. And if you're so inclined, we have some swag like highlighters, koozies, stickers, all the fun stuff. So go grab that in there as well. And I'm gonna go.
Come on up, Lottie. She already said she was going to stand here next to me so you could see the height difference up in here. Okay, I get one of the most amazing pleasures today. I get to introduce your keynote speaker who embodies our theme for today and is absolutely an integral part of the social work community's history and the program's history as well. I could probably take the entire hour giving you all of the pieces of what she has done for our community, but then I would rob you of getting to hear her. So I'm going to give you just a snapshot that I promise you is barely even scratching the surface of the amazing human that you're about to learn about today. So let me read my prepared remarks and then move out of the way so you can see the real deal. It's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, who is a perfect representation of the tradition of social work, and most especially social work within this area. Lottie has been practicing social work since she graduated from the University of Evansville in 1977. Lottie received her master's degree from the University of Louisville Kent School of Social Work in 1985. She sat for her ACSW licensure in 1997, got her LCSW licensure in 1992, when it was finally available. She also holds an LMHC. She just keeps learning, and you will hear how important that is for us as social workers. In 1977, she began her career as the executive director of Mental Health America in Vanderburgh County. She then worked at the Evansville State Hospital from 1980 to 1992, starting as a psychiatric social worker and leaving there having been the director of the psychiatric social work program. She was hired by Arbor/Charter Hospital to develop their intensive outpatient programming and served as the clinical director there from 1992 to 1995. Then she spent the next part of her career at the Evansville Psychiatric Children's Center, starting as the psychiatric social services director, then the clinical director, and finally as the superintendent. She served with NASW, there in the back, in a number of local positions, on a number of committees, and on the state board, serving as president from 1992 to 1994. She retired. As you can see by her standing on this stage, I'm putting that in parentheses, from EPCC in 2017. I say retired because as you listen to her speak today, you will discover that social workers are always engaged in the practice of social work, even in retirement. Lottie embodies this in her continued participation in local boards, volunteer work, and initiatives. She serves on the board of directors for the Dunnigan YMCA, serves on the Suicide Prevention Task Force, Resilient Evansville, Prevent Child Abuse, Isaiah House, and AARP, along with singing in the choir at church and being a mentor mom, because, you know, she needs a couple extra roles, right? She also has been involved with the Evansville Coalition for the Homeless, Impact Ministries in the past, just to name a few. I could go on more. She has mentored interns as a field placement site since she first graduated with her bachelor's degree, and she has even taught as an adjunct professor within the social work department at USI. She was part of the original community advisory committee that pushed for USI to create both the Bachelor of Social Work program and a Master of Social Work program. She is woven into the history and the tradition within the USI social work department and the social work community in this area and state. She has received numerous awards and honors, as she well deserved them, for her service and dedication. Some of these include the Gloria Goeglin Award for Public Policy from the Indiana National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Who's Who among Human Service Professionals, Social Worker of the Year in Region 8 and 14, as well as for the whole state of Indiana, and the Kent School Alumni Award from the University of Louisville. She is the embodiment of social work ethical principles of service, social justice, dignity and worth of the person, importance of human relationships, integrity and competence. And we are honored to learn from this esteemed member of our social work community.
And now she puts my bench.
There you go, my dear.
You can see me. I'm vertically challenged, in case anyone didn't notice. Especially when you stand by Brandy. It's like, oh, please don't make me stand by you. Oh. Good morning. It's so glad to see all these happy faces in here and the smiles. I look out there and I see people that I worked on committees with, that I worked in agencies with, that I taught in school, that I did field place instruction with, and it's so fun to see everybody's face out there. So, and the energy in this room just when I walked in is fantastic, so I hope it just grows and grows and grows throughout the day. That's what we need to have happen here. I'm going to just tell you a little story first about my very first advocacy as a social worker, and it was when I was a bachelor's degree at U of E. I had a sociology professor who said in front of the class, social workers are nothing but a bunch of do-gooders who think they can change the world. Yes, we can. But I said, oh, so you'd rather be a sociologist who studies everything that's wrong with human behavior and does nothing about it? Okay. Well, I got a C in that class. Yes, I did, because I argued with him on a regular basis, and he put a question on the test that I completely had a different answer for than he did. And I answered it my way, not his. So there goes my C. Anyway, so I hope all you do-getters are making a difference out there. And happy Social Work Month, by the way. So I know you're probably saying, oh, good Lord, what is she wearing? Because usually a keynote comes up here dressed up, right? Well, I'm retired, remember that. So, but I do have a social work shirt on. And it does put the values of what social work is on there. But another little story to tell you before I get started is that I have a friend who dresses to the hilt everywhere she goes. Her fingernails match, her jewelry matches, her shoes matches. It's unreal. So one day I just had to go up and say, why are you always dressed up? And she said, because my mom taught me that you need to look your best every time you walk out the door. I laughed a little and said, well, my mom told me to wear clean underwear with no holes in case I was in an accident. And I promise you I have that on today. Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to somebody who's not here, and that's Kathy Elpers. A lot of us know her. She's still teaching some classes, or doing field instruction, I understand. But Kathy is the one that got me involved with the USI to start with. So it's all her fault that I'm here, okay? So, but she and I have had a reciprocal relationship. If I needed something, I could always call Kathy. And if Kathy needed something, she could always call me. And that's the kind of mentorship with each other that you need. So make sure you've got those kind of people in your wheelhouse. So now we get started. My goal, I hope that I understood, is that I'm supposed to talk to you a little bit about social work values and ethics in reference to my practice. Okay? So I don't like talking about me. It was hard enough listening to it. But I'm going to do that just because that's the examples I have, and I don't know anybody else's examples any better than I know my own. So I'm going to try it that way. But my first thing is I'm going to give you the bottom line first. And the bottom line is that social work is not just about what you do. It's about who you are. It should be ingrained in you. It's not something you have to work on. It's just part of who you are. So when I get thought of ethics, I don't carry around my ethics book. I may go look something up every now and then just to make sure I'm correct, but it's in me. The values are there. That's all there is to it. So I don't have to, it's just part of who I am. And that's what you need to get. As students, make sure you know it. Know those values because it needs to become a part of who you are. So I'm going to start with, I know I'm every once in a while, I'm going to start with core values because that's the basis for social work practice, is the core values in the ethics book. Now, if you think when you look up here that I'm going to cover, she goes, oh, Lord, she's going to cover all of those. No, I'm not. But those are the principles underneath the values, and I am going to cover 3 that I think that we've truly forgotten or not doing as well as we could be doing. So those are the 3 that I'm going to really cover. But I do want to go over all of the values, and there are mainly 6 of them. And one of them is service, and I'm going to cover this again because it's one of the principles too. But service does not mean what we're doing in just in our agencies that we're working in and getting paid for. Service is about volunteer work in the community with no self-interest and no compensation. That's what it is. Now, we need to think about that because that's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit. But it's not just about going to work and coming home. There's other things in the community that need your attention, and it's about giving a little part of yourself for that. Social justice, that's pursuing social change that's needed, that we see. And we don't have to agree with people's lifestyles, people's stage in life, people's where they've gotten themselves. We don't have to agree with that, but we have to make sure that they have access to needed information, that they have services, that they have resources, that they have equal opportunities to everybody else. They are human beings, everybody. And they have the right to that. So that's what we make sure happens. There's a saying, a little initial thing, it's SODSAT. I call it SODSAT. Somebody ought to be doing something about that. Well, we're that somebody. In fact, if nothing happens, then somebody didn't. So we need to make sure that we're that somebody. Dignity and worth of the person, everyone deserves care, and respect. We promote social responsibility, social responsible self-determination. Now, what does that mean? That means that you have a client and you're listening to them, but in what they're saying to you, you know they have the right to self-determination, but you also have to think about their community, their family, and the world at large. You can't just think about the client. It's socially responsible self-determination. That's what we're, and it's hard. It's hard because you sometimes have to go talk to someone about that and say, okay, where are we with this? And then where are we with the community as far as that's concerned? So you always want to make sure that you're doing it. And you're always looking at the person in the environment. That's important too. Knowing that all actions don't always just affect the person in front of us. So especially when you're working with kids, you should be working with families. Okay? Because they're going to tell you a story, but you don't know what's really happening too. You've got to be there with the family. And another value is the importance of human relationships. Our goal is to seek to strengthen human relationships. Okay, we have to think about how we do that. In a purposeful effort to promote, restore, maintain, and enhance the well-being of the individual. People are supposed to be a part of social groups and organizations and communities because that's our fabric. So some people aren't. They're very isolated. We need to be thinking about that. In-person social networking is the fabric of the community, and we're losing that. I believe, and I'm not going to quote this exactly because I didn't write down my source, but I'm going to tell you what I think it said, so it may not be exact, but I think it was from the Atlantic Journal, if I remember what I read. But there's a 40% decline in joining groups, organizations, clubs, churches, and also with that comes a decrease in empathy. because they're not around other people. They're not hearing people's stories. So we have to care about human connections. If we think about it, we've gone a lot to food on the go, classes online, Zoom meetings, texting, email, grocery delivery, church online. How are we strengthening relationships with that? You got to be with people. So we got to figure out times to be with people. Integrity is another one. We work honestly and responsibly to promote clinical ethical practices and high standards of practice. Your ethics book is your gold standard. So make sure you know it. Competence. We're striving to increase knowledge base and skills and apply that, plus contribute to the knowledge base of our profession. So are we doing anything to contribute to the knowledge base of our profession? Competent people are committed to excellence, never settle for the average, pay attention to detail, perform with consistency, don't sweat the small stuff, and learning is a lifelong process. No graduating seniors, this isn't the end. You have to keep reading, and you have to study for your license, and you have to do all kinds of things. And if you don't, as my dad would say, you learn something new every day, because when you quit learning, you might as well dig the hole and crawl in, because you's dead. So everybody has to learn something new every day. Part of being competent is also making sure that when we don't feel competent, we seek out the consultation and supervision we need to gain that competence. There's nothing like an experienced guide to warn us when there's invisible rocks in our stream, so we don't trip over them. So make sure you have that person that you can go to. Competence also increases as we teach someone else what we know. Okay, so it's not just about learning for ourselves, it's about giving it away. So we learn, we grow, we teach, and we relearn. Because when we teach it, we're relearning it. And once we're talking about something, it just kind of sparks in our head, oh yeah, and what about this? And so it brings about that. Chip Conley noted, the secret of a rich and meaningful life lies in passing along what you have learned to the next generation. Michelangelo's studio door says, I'm still learning. How many of you take students as interns in your agencies? Can you stand up? Stand up, please. I know you guys have had to stand up a lot, but this will keep you moving, keep your blood circulating. Okay, look at that. And those of you that don't, think about it. Here's why it's important. It's not for USI and not as much about the student. It is about the student, but it's even for your staff because it's staff development. Do you know what they have to do every time they have a student? They have to teach them what's going on. They have to answer their questions, so they have to go look things up and relearn things they may not have remembered. And it's okay to say, I'm not sure about that, but I'll get right back to you. But that makes them go have to look it up. Okay? So that's staff development. The competence increases in your agency if you have students there. Isn't that amazing? It's a reciprocal relationship. Okay, so before we set out on a few principles of core values, I want to think a little bit about how you got here. Not here today, but as a social worker, okay? So while I'm telling my story about some background things that kind of pushed me toward this, you think about yours, because you all have a story about why you came into social work. So think about it. So first of all, I had very good examples in a loving Christian family and parents that taught me a lot about love your neighbor as yourself. If I hadn't had that, that was the very beginning of it all. Not only to that, they brought family that was down and out into our home all the time. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't know we didn't have a lot of money, but we didn't have a lot of money. And they brought people in that were from our family that needed assistance. I can remember a time when my grandfather and grandmother and an aunt lived with us because they didn't have a home for a while. I mean, all things like that. They took a child right out of jail and made him my foster brother because he needed a chance, and they wanted to give him that chance. So they brought him into the thing. They brought kids that we knew from a family in inner city Indianapolis down to spend time in the country in the summer. Every summer of my high school year, we had Valerie and Eric with us. And we'd show them around the cows and the pigs and sheep and all those good fun things that they didn't get to see in the city. So then we also had a young man in our community that was brain damaged. And a lot of us took some classes to learn how to work with him. We had to physically move his limbs because they were all contracted with each other. And we learned how to do that, and we would go in and do that. And on top of that, we found out that he would calm down and quit crying and screaming because it hurt if we sang to him. So my sister and I would sing to him. And when the people said, well, you know, you're not there all the time, what are we going to do? So we made a tape. And they played the tape of us singing to him so that he would calm down. And then we had, I volunteered in high school, I shouldn't say, I already did the volunteer thing. But in high school, I went into my locker room, and there were two young ladies that I knew, and they were getting changed, and they had bruises and cuts and all over them. And I said, what is going on? And they said, our dad has us go out and get a switch off the tree and beats us with it when he's mad or upset about something we've done. And I said, anything else? Yeah, we can't take a bath without the door open so he can watch. And I said, you don't have to put up with that. I said, you're coming home with me. And I put them in my bus, 2 of them, and brought them home. And my mother says, what? So she called the police. And in the meantime, the father drove in the driveway. And this is how cowardly these kind of people can be sometimes. He sent his youngest daughter up to the door and said, you tell Rita and Sheila they need to come out right now. And I said, they're not coming out. You tell him to go away. And they left. But we went through that whole process with them, helped them find a foster home and the whole thing. So those are the kind of examples I had. So how could I not be a social worker? But I did go U of E, this is going to amaze you, as a music major. And I got in there and had to practice behind those 4 walls, hours upon hours, and I said, I can't do this. I have to be around people. So that's when I turned to social work, because my mom said, I always knew you were going to anyway. I just let you think you were going to be a music major. Okay, the 3 principles I've chosen to talk about today is advocacy, service and volunteer work, and cooperation and collaboration, because I think they're lost a little bit. Sometimes we think we can just kind of get our shingle hanging out, go to work, come home, those kinds of things. So, but that's lost. This has been lost a little bit, and I want to get into those. Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has. Advocacy is standing up, strategies to stand up for a cause. It's acting on behalf of others and sometimes yourself, like I did with my teacher at U of E. You have to stand up for yourself and what you believe. And sometimes it means drawing attention to issues and working on legislation and resolutions and anything you can to make things work. It could be legislation. It could be agency and program changes that need to be made. It can be raising funds for somebody. It can be helping someone find their voice and speaking with them, for them. It can be getting helpful information out to the community. All that is advocacy. We need to remember, though, that advocacy is about educating ourselves. We need to know the facts, not what someone has sent to us on Facebook, okay? We have a tendency these days, because social media is so popular, that something comes through, and you think, oh, that sounds good, that's exactly what I believe, and we forward it on. We don't look it up. We don't take time to figure out if it's true, and we don't oftentimes respect another person's opinion. And a lot of times with Facebook, the bad thing is that you don't hear other people's opinion and able to look at it because you block them, because they don't believe the same thing I believe. I'm blocking them. Okay? Well, that's not a way to learn. So you don't have to agree with them, but again, still, you have to respect and care and have some compassion. So we need to learn to talk about what we're for, not what we're against. And that's what I see a lot of on social media. I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, that kind of thing. You're going out there. So it's not being against something is very passive. You can be against anything you want to be against, but you're not going to do anything about it, just being against it. You have to be for something. That takes action. That's what takes action. So we need to check out the truth, and Ford said, don't find fault, find a remedy. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about advocacy as in my life. One of my first ones was the USI MSW program. Okay, so I went to U of L, and you know why I went to U of L? I went to U of L because there was no master's degree here, and I didn't have any choice. I had 2 toddlers at home, and I graduated when they were 3 and 5. But I knew in the work environment I was in, I was going nowhere unless I had that master's degree. So I'd stay up late studying because I wouldn't study when they were up. I put them to bed, and once they were in bed, I would study. And then I went and worked my full-time job the next day and went to school at night. So it was not an easy time, but that's what I needed to do. But I didn't want other people to have to go through that. So when it came time to take a look at a master's degree program in the late 80s, early 90s, several community members got together. You know what our concern was? We send these people away to school, U of L, Bloomington IU, and what happens? They don't come back. They do their internships in agencies over there. They get connected. They know the system in that community, so why not stay there? People are offering me a job after my internship, so I don't need to come back home. We were losing people, and we were short on professional MSW social workers at that time in southern Indiana. So there was a core group of us, and I'm not going to get too many names because there's so many names I could put out there of people that influenced me in social work over the years, but I would forget somebody and then I'd be in real trouble. But I will tell you that the core group that started on this MSW journey was myself, Lark Buckman, who was with the Welfare Department, Rick Paul with Southwestern Indiana Mental Health Center, Don Aronoff with Southern Hills, and he wasn't even a social worker. He was an executive director, and he said, this is nonsense, I'm losing my social workers. I can't send them to school because they won't come back. So, and then Kathy Elpers from USI. That was the core group of people that started meeting, and then we met with legislators, and those two were, the 2 I remember there were several more, but Vanita Becker and Dennis Avery backed us very hard. And then, of course, there's a lot more to that. I mean, you go on with funding and meeting with legislators and testimonies, and then you have to go through the Commission on Higher Education, and you have to put together your plan and your policies and all this kind of stuff. But an MSW program was born, and the first class graduated in 1995. How many of you are here, 1995? Yes! Stand up back there, too. Okay, there you go. And Bonnie was my student. Yeah, that tells you that I'm mature in age. There you go. All right, so that class actually graduated thinking, I hope they get accredited. I really hope they get accredited. And accreditation did happen in 1998. How many teachers were here at that time? At the 1995, were there any of you here at that time? Christy! Woo! Yeah. All right. So my next advocacy is NASW. Advocating for the profession, for your pay and licensure. That was my big thing when I was there. I joined as a bachelor's degree student at U of E. And I started going to meetings locally, and I held several local, and then I was vice president of the board of regions in 1990-92 and president in 92-94. So if you look back in your history, during that time is when we were going to the legislators for social work licensure in Indiana. We had to tell them we are not just do-gooders, we're professional social workers. That's what we are, okay? So along with that professional social work status comes a little better pay. And I'll tell you about a little better pay because I started my first job right out of the school as a bachelor's degree social worker for $9,600. Woohoo! And then I went and thought I'd gotten this great big old raise because I went to the state hospital to work in social work there, and I was being paid $14,650. Oh my goodness gracious. So, and that didn't improve a whole lot for a long time, but I think it did improve after licensure came along and people started seeing us in a little bit different light, and that's what we were trying for. I even got in trouble with the state of Indiana at one point in time because I took off, I was looking up statistics and this, that, and there. We had other professions, and I'm not going to say anything bad about other professions, but we had them getting raises over and over again because of their importance in direct care with the clients at the state hospital. but not social workers. They were staying the same all the time. So I had to put together a study, and I took 3 days off of my own vacation time to get statistics and look things up at the state level and that kind of thing, and then go in and testify, even to the point that they had their attorney of personnel department in the state of Indiana arguing against me, okay? So I became the enemy of the state. The enemy of the state for a while, but that's okay, because sometimes that's what you have to do. Okay, first thing I worried about when I came today was I didn't type this out. I said, oh, Lord, you're not going to be able to read your own writing. But I'm doing pretty good. Also, as far as the NASW, delegate assembly was another advocacy process. And I don't know if any of you know what a delegate assembly is, but that's where your code of ethics came from. I got to go twice. I had the privilege of going twice, where there were social workers, and I mean a variety of different kind of people. Woohoo! I mean, there were some fun ones there. And they basically, from all over the arena of NASW, they're in a great big, in Washington, D.C., and we did all kinds of looking at principles and policies and ethics. There was microphones in the room, and people would stand behind them and wait in line to say their piece, and then we'd put it together. That's where your ethics come from. It's just like a legislative assembly of social workers, putting together what the social work process needs to be. Another one on advocacy was, some of you will remember this, but Governor O'Bannon decided the Evansville Psychiatric Children's Center needed to close because they needed to save some money and the budget, and so they were going to close the hospital. That was in the early 2000s, I believe. I try to forget those things, so. This was the only freestanding state-owned psychiatric children's hospital in the state of Indiana. They were going to build 5, and they ended up getting that land donated at one point in time and built it, and then they stopped. And yet they were going to close them down. So the governor came down that day. No one had been told ahead of time. We all went into a meeting, the governor was visiting, right? Well, we found out along with the community that we were closing. Well, it was time to circle the wagons and find out the facts and get the information out there. So what the financial information we gathered was in 9 out of the last 10 years, because of Medicaid reimbursement, we had made money for the state, not lost it. And to find out things like, how much money are you paying to get horse races pregnant with the right horse so they can race properly versus giving children psychiatric care? Okay? So that's what we had to do, but we had to get those things together and organize ourselves with staff, friends from EPCC, NAMI, and meet with the legislators who, again, supported us all the way. Another shout out for them. And we won because of the truth of the program. They weren't allowed to shut us down. They voted against it. And they've stayed open since then. But I lost for a little while as a professional social worker because I was an enemy of the state. I wanted to run the center, but I couldn't run the center because they didn't know that they could trust me because I didn't go along with their plan. So 3 years after my superintendent that was there actually left, I went through 2 superintendents. I applied the first time, and I didn't get it. The second time, I said, I'm not applying. They know I'm here. They know my heart and soul is with this agency, and I am not going to apply. So after they got rid of the second one in 3 years, they finally called and said, would you come be interim superintendent, so we can learn if you can work with us and we can work with you. So I said, sure, I'll do that, because that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to do that. So they said, we'll give you 6 months to show us that we can work together. And I said, okay. 3 months later, they sent down the FSSA director to ask me if I was going to do it. And he just basically went, are you or are you not? And I said, am I or am I not what? And he said, taking this position. And I said, I am seriously considering it. You gave me 6 months. I've had 3. I still need to know if I can work with you. I'm waiting 3 more months. Okay, my next advocacy push was a culture change at EPCC, and I got one of my partners here today, Pam Dewey, back in the back. She was with me during all of that. I don't know what I would have done without my team, because they had to believe in what I believed in order to be able to move forward. But when I first arrived at EPCC, we were, I want to say, military-based. That's kind of what it felt like. When you went on the dorms, the kids were sitting straight with the TV on, watching the TV. The staff were in the back talking. And when the kids turned around, they'd say, "Turn around." Okay? I'm like, oh, no, this isn't going to work for me. What we were in the philosophy of was, these are bad kids who did bad things and they need correction. That's the philosophy we were in. As a clinical director, I started working on different approaches, and I actually, with Pam and some other people, we put together a social skills program, and we put together a therapeutic intervention manual for staff. Well, that was good, and there were improvements made, but not enough to please me. It just wasn't enough. I wanted a violence-free, strength-based, trauma-informed, collaborative treatment environment. That's what I wanted. So I wanted a mindset set in that facility that not you're bad, but bad things have happened to you. I wanted to not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. So I found a grant as soon as I got this position with the national government. Now, this is the first time an agency has gone to the state and said, we want this grant. It's usually the state applying for a grant and saying, we want you to do this grant. So it's the very first time that anybody actually went to them and said, I'm going to apply for this grant. And they said yes. So I got a little bit of assistance to help with the grant, and we brought in a Boys Town psychosocial skills program, trauma-informed care, and we trained our staff from housekeeping all the way up to the doctor. Everybody had the same philosophy. The social skills program helped them formalize how you respond to a child in all kinds of different situations. So the kids were getting a consistent message, and it was not mom saying this and then dad saying that, and them going, what am I supposed to do? So we all went through that same thing. And during that time, it was a 3-year grant. At the end, we got rid of mechanical restraints altogether. We turned our seclusion rooms into sensory rooms, and we reduced our physical holds, which we only did not when they were angry and upset and throwing things around, but if they were physically aggressive towards someone else. Physical holds we took down by 80% during that time. So that was a trip, wasn't it, Pam? It was, getting everybody on board was the hardest part, and it took a while, but we had to work hard at that. Now today I'm still doing advocacy. I'm with AARP. So yeah, that's my stage of life. And I'm on the Federal Advisory Board, which means that I'm in charge of supporting legislation that's needed for 55+ individuals. So I won't tell you how plus I am. You can guess it if I graduated in 1977 from U of E, though. Anyway, our recent activity is on caregivers tax credit. Anybody in here a caregiver or somebody that's, I know that you are over here, because I heard you, Linda, I heard you say something, right? Anyway, caregivers spend a lot of money taking care of people in their homes, a lot of money. And what we're pushing for is a caregiver's tax credit. So that's what we're trying to get through with AARP. Facts have been gathered about personal costs. We have all kinds of information for them. We didn't go out there and just say, this is what we want. We put our facts together. We found out how much it costs. We got people who are in the caregiver status to make videos for the legislators to tell them what they were doing and what their loss was and how desperate they are for income and money. And then we did it. We are also now watching Social Security and Medicare that seniors depend upon. And I just got through contacting legislators 2 days ago saying, you need to watch Social Security. This is the main income for retiring seniors. This is 1 in 5 seniors' only income when they retire. I want this program there for me, my kids, and my grandkids. Please don't touch what we have paid in and earned. That's what I did. So that's basically, again, advocacy. So like I said, I'm still social working out there all the time. Okay. That's what people ask me all the time when they said, "You're retired?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I see you in meetings all the time." And I know. I know. I just couldn't let some things go. That's all there is to it. Okay, service and volunteer work. Again, this is not about self-interest. I'm going to this meeting because it represents my agency, or I'm doing this because I want to look good. It's not self-interest, and it's not financial return. That's not what we're thinking about when we're talking about service and volunteer. So you need to ask yourself, when you're wanting to know what should I be doing as volunteer work, what are my clients dealing with? What do I hear from them? What does our community need? When you look around, you can see community needs. Where can I truly make a difference? And how could I be a small part of maybe changing something that needs to be changed? You don't have to be major. It's just a little small part, because everybody's little small part makes it big, okay? Over the years, she's already gone through, I've served on a lot of different committees, including homelessness, substance abuse, suicide prevention, child abuse prevention, building resilience in our youth, disaster mental health, National Depressive Manic Depressive Association Support Group, the USI Advisory Board, and field placements. There are many, many, many ways to serve in this community. If you take volunteers at your agency, please stand. Okay, look at these faces. If you don't have a place now, get with one of them and ask about what they do, what their volunteers are. If you volunteer in a local agency now, please stand. There you go. Thank you very much. There are opportunities that can be small. You think that when you volunteer, it's got to be something big. And it can be small. It can be that you go to Isaiah House and you say, "I want to sign up for a bin." And when the 2-year-old bin's empty, you can buy shirts for the 2-year-old bin. That didn't take much time. And I love to shop, so that's not hard for me at all. So you want to do something, find a way to do something. It can be a fundraiser, a one-time thing where you're meeting to do a fundraiser. It can be a monthly committee meeting that you go to give input. It can be a weekly time that if you want to go spend weekly. I mean, they also at Isaiah House need people who will watch the kids, and they train them so that they can be with kids who are at the house. It can be for a special occasion, like the YMCA's pancake breakfast. Just go serve pancakes one morning. I mean, it's not hard. You have annual fundraising things, and you've got coming up things like Youth First and Friends of Mental Health. They're having fundraisers coming up real soon. Attend those. Be a part of those. Your time depends on your time. So I can't tell you how much to give or what to give. I just know that you are going to get a lot more out of it than you're really giving to it. Just the networking and collaboration with the people that you know and care about in the community is as important. And what little bit you can do will go a long, long way. Okay. Cooperation and collaboration. Make sure your voice, choice, and role, that you have a voice, a choice, and a role wherever you serve. Make sure you're speaking up for yourself in the community, in your agency, and that you're part of that voice, choice, and you know your role. But as you do, you also know that you often work with other disciplines. And they don't always think exactly like you do. And that's okay. They may even convince you with something they have to say that maybe you need to think things through a little bit. But you need to grasp those differences and care about them and actively listen, like you do with your clients. So you can't sit in a meeting and just argue back and forth because you're not listening when you're doing that. You need to take time to listen to the other person and hear what they have to say. Because the collaboration and cooperation with a team is important. There's an old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I couldn't have done all I did at EPCC without a team of people that were back behind me. So you always need to have that team. And the hard part of a collaborative is sometimes those are people that want to not be a part of the team, that are always going to fight the team, and you almost have to work with them individually and figure out where they're coming from and why they might be hurting a little bit if something's happened bad to them, so that you can help them come along and see what's going on with the team and how they're affecting it. So it's not always an easy process. Collaborative teammates do more than just work together or work with one another. Each person brings something to the table that adds value to the relationship and synergy to the team. So it takes seeing your teammates as collaborators, not competitors. I've gone into meetings where it almost seems like one person needed a one-up on somebody else, and that they were competing in a meeting where they were trying to solve something that was going on in their agency. That is not the way to be. You need to be collaborative, not competitive. An attitude of support and not suspiciousness. Competency, you need to compliment others when you see something going right. Nothing goes further than a compliment. My husband the other day did that at a restaurant, and just to see that man's face, he just said, "Do you know how good a job you did serving us today?" And that man said, "Oh my gosh, you just made my day." He didn't care about the tip. He liked what he heard, that he was taking care of his people. So we need to make sure we're complimenting other people. Concentrating on the team and not self. It's not about our own self-victories or whether we won out or whether our opinion was taken or not. It's about making sure that we concentrate on the team and what's good for the team. Creating more victories through multiplication. And that means the more you have, people you have, the more victories you can win, because it's the power of collaboration. John Maxwell said, anyone who loves his or her own opinion more than the teammates will advance their own options and set back the team. There's also importance of adaptability as a team. You have to get in the habit of learning from each other. You have to reevaluate your role all the time as you see it. You have to think outside the lines. I sometimes have found myself putting myself into a box and thinking, oh, no, there's a lot more to it than that, and trying to think outside of that. You don't look and say, nah, I don't think that can be done. That can't be done. You say, how can that be done? So when someone's giving an opinion in a meeting and you don't necessarily agree with it, it's not, nah, that'll never work. That'll never work. I've heard that so many times. That'll never work. You ask them, well, how do you see that working? How do you see that working? And you give them a chance to give you an idea of how that might work. It might be something that you didn't even think of because your mind's already where you want it to be, but you need to listen to others. All right, I have one more topic I want to cover really well, and that's self-care. And people are going to go, oh, no. Well, I'm going to tell you something. You can't be a good social worker if you don't do self-care. Because you're going into a room with a client, and instead of thinking about the client, you're exhausted because you stayed up all night with the baby the night before. You had a fender bender on the way into work. Your anxieties are at the top of the hill because you dropped them off at daycare and they were crying, and all that's on your head. So if you don't find something to get out of your head before they get in there, you're not going to hear them. So to be able to hear them, you have to let go of that stuff that's happening to you. Now, you might find someone later you can talk to because you do need to get it out. That's from somebody, but not your client. So you need to be there for your client, and active listening is important. So you can't have interference from your own thoughts when you're trying to do active listening. And we have a lot more than that just to think about now. We have world reports and news reports and problems here and teenagers that are getting in trouble. I mean, all kinds of things. So we have to have emotional intelligence. We have to be self-aware. We have to know how to self-regulate. We have to have motivation to be all that we can be on the job. We have to have good relationship and social skills, and we have to have empathy. So there are some specific ways. It's just going to make you guys mad because I know I hated to do this, but I'm going to do it. We're going to look at senses. We have movement, touch and temperature, vision, looking, olfactory, smelling, taste, and hearing. And we're going to think about all those senses. And one thing, what I want you to do, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here on your own. I want you to think about or write down, whatever, one in each of those areas, stress reducers that you can do to get calm and get your head clear before you meet with a client. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, not very long. You can talk to each other, do whatever you want to come up with those. But movement, touch and temperature, vision and looking, olfactory smelling, taste, and hearing. So just take a couple minutes. Think about those. You can, if you want to. I don't know that I'll be able to answer anything, but.
I'm sure you will. But just in case, like, you can
Okay.
ask him and then I'll just read it.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's get back together here. Can someone shout out one movement stress reliever? Biking, did someone say biking? Hiking, that's on there. Another one, anybody? Yoga. Okay. Rocking, anybody have rocking chairs in their offices? That's a nice thing to have. Rocking. Swimming, jumping on a trampoline, dancing. Just get up and turn some music on and move around. You need to think of those things that you can do in your office too. Now, on your breaks, you can go out and take a walk. Go out and take a breather, take a walk. That helps. Okay, different types of touch and temperature. Shout out a couple. Plants, coffee, animals. Okay, petting. Pardon? Sewing. Okay. Okay, hot shower, cold shower, squeeze stress balls, soaking in a hot bath. Anybody like to do that? Getting a massage. Okay, anything that's touch. Okay, how about hearing? Music. Everybody's top. Music. White noise. Anybody sleep with white noise? I have to sleep with white noise. I relieve my stress of the day. I have to have noise on. Yeah. Okay. Okay, even our cats purring. Some people have cats or dogs, and when they're purring or making little noises, that's comforting to them. Vision, looking. Name a couple. Somebody say pictures? Artwork. Cat videos. All right, so all of those. Olfactory and smelling. Diffusers, candles. Anybody like fresh cut grass? Go out and smell like spring? Oh yeah, okay. Flowers outside, herbal teas, smell of herbal teas. There's all kinds of things that you can do there. Now, these are also, if you pick up on some of these things, they're things that you can use with your clients when you see that they're getting stressed. What you're trying to do is keeping stress from becoming distress, all right? You don't want distress. It's okay to be stressed. We're all stressed every now and then. But when it takes it over to distress, you can't deal with your clients. You can't do your job. So you want to nip it in the bud. Okay, the last one then is taste. Food. Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah. Gum or mints. Eating a popsicle, something cold sometimes makes it good. Sour candy. Or some people like those hot balls, you know. Throw the hot peppers in their mouth. Yeah. Fire you up. There you go. Okay, very good. Thank you very much for participating in that. George Hales noted, no one ever gave their best and regretted it. So give your best. And to wrap up, I'm going to say a few final thoughts. Nothing great is accomplished without patience, persistence, determination, courage, and endurance. It's not going to, you want something to change, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be there with it and watching it grow. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people are willing to try when unsuccessful people are not, even though they don't feel like it, and even though it's hard. Every day, make the rest of your day the rest of your life. I'm going to get this right. Every day, make the rest of your life the best of your life. Get it right sometime. A quote from John Maxwell, ordinary people with commitment can make an extraordinary impact on the world. Passion, which is what you should have for your profession, is a process, not a moment. Okay? So, I want you to think about these questions as you get ready to leave here, and that is, what have you done or are you going to do to advocate for your clients' needs, to make a positive impact on your profession, to show commitment to the social issues needing attention in your community, and to take care of yourself? Those are my final questions. I want you to remember what I said in the beginning. Social work is not about what you do, it's about who you are. And I leave you with a prayer that you have eyes to see the best in people around you, a heart that will forgive the worst, and a mind that forgets the bad, and a soul that never loses faith. And that's from Zig Ziglar. Thank you for your service to our community. Happy anniversary to the social work program, and thanks for having me here today. And I didn't fall off the stool.
All right, well, do we have any questions for Lottie? Ooh, she ran really fast.
Oh, yeah, you wanted questions.
They wanted the questions, I think. I don't know.
You want questions,
We have time.
Ask questions. You've got quite the historian here with a lot of effort into social work that she's had across her life.
And I can't get the answer, and I'll say, I don't know about that. Back to you later.
What has been your experience working at Alumni?
Here, I'll bring you a microphone. That's why I got this fun thing.
Thank you. What has been your experience working with the different legislations? Because you said that they'd had your back through the whole event. Had you run into any challenges during that?
During the working with the local ones?
Yes.
No. No. Now, I can't say anything about the ones we have right now because I haven't really dealt with them, but back then, no. Right now, I'm dealing more with federal, and yeah, I have some conflicts with some of the federal ones at this point in time, but I don't know that I want to mention any names. I just keep pushing a little bit, you know, and I don't, the big thing is you don't give up. And if they say something about this, that, or the other, and you think, oh, they don't really have all the information, I go get more information. and then I pass it on to them. So you hope that sooner or later, once they have the information, that they'll do something with it. That's what you hope. Yeah. Anybody else? I'm going to get off easy. No. Oh, no. There's one back there.
Ms. Lottie, in your opinion right now, what are some issues that social workers really need to get active with working on and advocating for?
I think we all know that already. Human rights, just basic human rights, the ability to see no matter what lifestyle a person has chosen, no matter what stage of life they're in, no matter what they've done in their life, that they all have a right to be respected and cared for, and that we need to stand up for that. Yay. I told him, I said, I don't know that. She said, you want me to ask questions? And I forgot all about it, and that's why I went and sat down. I said, sure, they can ask questions. I don't know I can answer, but they can ask them.
Hi, my name's Mandy. I am a social work student. What do you say to social work students like myself who are struggling with possibly going out into a world that isn't very accepting of social work and what we do right now?
The only thing you can do is be proud of who you are. In the past, I mean, I can remember Don Wells, who was the NASW president when I was the president there, and basically he said, you just need to always say, I'm a social worker. I'm a social worker. A lot of people in the past said, I'm a counselor, I'm a therapist, I'm a this, I'm a that. And that's why social work's name kind of went down, and we were the do-gooders versus being a professional. So you just continue to tell what you do. And in the past, too, as I was getting educated about it, there were a lot of individuals who just worked, like when I was in my bachelor's degree program, welfare department, state hospital. Those were our two field placement choices. I didn't have any others. Well, I didn't want those. So I created my own. I wanted to do a community organization placement. So I went to the Belle Meade Bayard Neighborhood Association project, and I served there, and I started a girls group in the evening there, and I did some statistics on the migration patterns in that area, who moved in, who moved out, and what the population was like, and some things like that, because I didn't want to do the others. And luckily, I had a professor who went along with me and said, sure, let's do that. But I developed my own field placement because I didn't want the ones they had. So, but it's taking a look at, social workers are everywhere now. They're not just in welfare and psychiatric inpatient units, they're everywhere. And so you stand up and be proud of who you are. Uh-oh, I'm in trouble now.
No, I can't help but take advantage of just the longevity and history. And I had the amazing pleasure to sit in an office and even soak in an ounce of what you have to offer.
It's my pleasure to be with you, yeah.
I would just really love to hear, as you look across your career that literally spans the 50 years that social work has existed out here.
Oh, quit
and
saying
as
things like that.
As a grand dame of social work, I would love to hear what you think are some of the profound changes that you've been able to witness across the longevity of what you've accomplished just as a social worker. Because I know nationally, locally, statewide, so many changes in the world, so many things have changed over 50 years. And I would just love to hear what you thought of were some standout moments.
Some people aren't going to like this very much. But when I started in social worker, there was a thing called the good old boy syndrome. And women were not really paid attention to very much back then. And I had to go through quite a bit of advocating for myself. So you have to learn to do that too, advocating for yourself back then, because men were in charge, not women. And so that's changed a lot over the years. Just to tell a little story, back when I worked in I won't mention the facility, another facility. Early in my career, And the director was getting ready to retire, and he had the one that came to me and said, "You have potential, please go back and get your master's degree." If he had not encouraged me to do that, I'm not sure, because I had 2 kids at home. I'm like, "You're crazy, I can't do that." But I did, and it was at his encouragement. Well, then he came to me when he was going to retire and said, "Hey, I'm going to retire in a year." And I said, "Okay, can I go up and talk to the boss and tell him that I'm interested in that position?" And he said, "Yes, you may. That's the reason I'm telling you." So I went up to the boss, and there's 2 things that happened. First, before I went up to the boss, there was another gentleman who had been in social work for years that had worked there that the boss had sent down to my boss to hire. I want him hired. I knew what was going on. He was priming him for the position because he knew Jack was retiring. He'd admitted it. I knew what was going on. So I had to get in there and tell him, I want this position, and I am going to fight for it. His response to me, now, this is going to floor some of you because these days you wouldn't dare do this, but he said, "Oh yeah, if you would sit on my desk in a short skirt just like so-and-so does, I'd be glad to give you that position." Okay, now that would be sexual harassment. We didn't have that back then. We had to just deal with it. So I said, "Well, look, I am not wearing skirts. I don't wear skirts. I wear pants. I never wear skirts. I look horrible in a skirt. And so I am not doing that, and I'm still going to get the position." And I did. So that's one of the major things, is where we have come as women, because it just is. Sorry, guys. I don't mean to diss on you in any way, but it was a very hard time to try to find some kind of a place where you wanted to be, to have some impact in what you were doing and be a woman. Anything else? Is that it? Any other questions?
Final takers?
Don't give it to Pam Dewey. She might ask me something I don't want to answer.
Raise your hand, Pam, so I can give this to you. Oh, I'm coming.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
I don't have a question.
Be
but
gentle.
I would like to say that working with Lottie and many, many other social workers that are in this room and have not been in this room for the past few years has just been such a life-changing event, not only for those of us that work, but also how we impact the children, the adults, the elderly, the disenfranchised. So I say to all of you, thank you, Lottie, and thank you to every social worker that gives their best every day.
Thank you, Pam. All right, I think I can go down now. I have to step down the step one more time and not fall, so there you go.
Thank you, Lottie. And can we give one more round of applause to Lottie? Okay, I have a quick announcement. Now is the time to have some fun. So in between our breakout session, please don't forget to visit our exhibitors and the history room, 50, 40, 30 rooms, okay? And then please come back to here by 11:30 a.m. because we're gonna have a great lunch, okay? Enjoy.